I was growing up, my best friend and I loved to play hide and seek with our little sister Bethany. Well, this was less a game of hide and seek and more a game of locking Bethany out of the house to see all the different ways she could figure out to get back inside. But I gotta tell you, she was really good at this. She would climb straight up the exposed beams to get to the unlocked windows and doors on the second floor. Once we finally figured out we had to lock those, she figured out how to break in through the locked doors. And one time, she even broke in through the basement crawl space. She was determined and persistent, always critically analyzing her situation to figure out the best way in. Now, Bethany's critical thinking skills extended well beyond breaking and entering. She was a killer at cards and strategy games. She's incredibly analytical, the type of person where you always want to be on her team. And so I was in no way surprised when she told me that she wanted to major in mechanical engineering. I knew that she had the persistence and drive to succeed, as well as the critical thinking skills to thrive as an engineer. During Bethany's first year of undergrad, she took her basic science and math classes, and while they weren't all that exciting for her, she understood that she was laying the foundations for her upcoming classes. What she was really excited for was her sophomore year. That's when she finally started getting to take actual engineering classes, applying all of those technical skills that she'd been working so hard on. But what she found was that her engineering classes were, well, more of the same. More learning of fundamental skills that, to her, didn't really seem to apply to the things that she saw in the world around her. About a year and a half into Bethany's program, she was bored. She'd never been given the opportunity to apply her skills to anything tangible. She had little idea what engineers were or what they did in the world. The major, it just wasn't what she'd been expecting. And so she decided to leave engineering for a major where she could more readily see the impacts of her coursework. And this isn't just Bethany's story. In 2016, ASCE reported that less than half of engineering majors complete their degree within 5 years. And of those who do graduate, data from the US Census Bureau shows that only about a third pursue engineering careers. One of the factors that I see contributing to this attrition is students' lack of opportunities to see the connections between all of the content they're learning in the classroom and the world around them. In our classrooms, we give our students simplified problems to solve so they can learn fundamental core skills. Problems for which there are single mathematically right or wrong solutions. And this can be a great technique for teaching a new skill. But we often fail to expand beyond this single solution model. We inadvertently allow our students to believe that engineers derive equations and then apply them to clean pictures from the textbook. We shelter them from the messiness that surrounds engineering problems within real-world scenarios. We limit technical complexity and omit the even greater challenge that comes when we incorporate social and financial constraints. Take a combined loading problem, for example. This could be as fundamental as giving our students a beam and applying some force and moment vectors, to as complex and engaging as challenging our students to design something like children's playground equipment, where they have to independently research the types of loads that the children might apply or what geometries make the most sense. We have the opportunity to broaden our problems and projects, inspiring our students to personally connect with the technical content, making it easier for them to recall and use in future problems. As a professor, it's so easy to get caught up in the mindset of I have so much to cover in my own course and so little time. I'll let them make these connections later. But without practice, our students will be less prepared to synthesize these skills when they're finally met with a more complex application. Or worse, students like Bethany never have the opportunity to see the connections at all and may leave the field. I was really disappointed when Bethany told me she was leaving engineering. And ever since becoming a professor, I've wanted to help future Bethanys see the connections between their technical skills and their personal interests, from very early in the engineering curriculum. To help my students see these connections, I incorporate entrepreneurial mindset learning in my courses by developing immersive scenarios. In my statics course, my 90 students work on a team project where I challenge them to propose a plan. Install a floating wind turbine above a small rural village. Now they're given all kinds of technical constraints, things like cable strength, wind loading, the maximum balloon height, but they're doing more than solving a calculation to figure out, did the balloon survive a given loading scenario? They're bringing power to a community, and so they have to think about all of the stakeholders. To help them see the ways in which their choices and decisions affect the people of the community, I give them a map of the village divided into zones. Each zone has a story that describes the current land use. If students want to build an anchor in one of those zones as part of their system, there's an associated financial cost and social impact, sometimes negative, sometimes positive. The students have to think about, whose backyard am I building in? Where would the community want the cables to go? They have to consider, how much power does the community need, and how do I balance that demand with selling power to a neighboring community to pay back that initial balloon cost? Who from the community will be trained to manage the project once the balloon's been installed? These are just some of the questions that my students face when developing their anchoring systems. They're given the opportunity to solve a technical challenge that's inextricably linked to non-technical factors. They have to look beyond the page to see the impacts of their choices. So I want to invite you all to join me in looking around our classrooms and thinking about the Bethanys who we see arriving in our campuses each and every year. Join me in welcoming them with creative and immersive experiences in our courses. Let's help them see the connections between all of our technical content and its broader implications. I invite you to imagine with me. Imagine if all Bethanys were engaged by the engineering curriculum from their very first technical course, empowered to see that their creativity is an essential element in unleashing engineering solutions in their world. Imagine if your students could see the connections between all of their technical skills and the world around them. Imagine what our students could do together if they'd been inspired year after year to see not only the technical value of their work, but the impacts of their solutions. That's the goal that I'm going to strive for, and I hope you'll join me on this journey. Thank you.